Solana will reach $200. Right guys, today we're going to be checking out Solana CEO Anatoly Yakovenko, speak about Solana's movement, Solana's future, and overall give a price prediction, a rough estimate. So if you're not holding any Solana, make sure to stick around till the end of the video, as right now is a great opportunity to be accumulating, and I would not miss this opportunity for the world. And also guys, before getting into the video, I do have to say that I have a major opportunity for my biggest subscribers, which is my private Discord, where that you can get access to through our Patreon in the link in the description. So in the link in the description, Patreon to the private Discord, and here guys we will be giving you some exclusive alpha, right? Exclusive alpha that you will not be getting on YouTube, so only in the Discord, and we will be giving you some insights on which coins are going to be easy access, right? 5x, 10x that you would not know otherwise, or will have a very hard time finding, right? And as you guys can see, we called some injective meme coins here, right? We called Shims, and we also called some other coins, right? We also called some Solana meme coins, and overall, right, we have had some pretty consistent calls. So if you want some exclusive alpha that we will not be giving on YouTube, check out the Discord through our Patreon in the link down below. So with that being said, let's get into the video and see what Anatoly has to say about Solana's future.
What we kind of see is that during our hackathons, we see a new swarm of teams that are building new DeFi primitives and new products, and it takes them a few months to warm up. Some actually go from forming a team to finishing a hackathon and raising money and getting to like 1 billion TVL just in that time. But generally it's a bit of a warm-up period, and then we see those products get to market and then get users, and those numbers grow. And it's just really showing that the ecosystem, especially the DeFi side, has its own legs. It's kind of running on its own.
Yeah, and I think that's broadly true. I think generally whenever people speak about DeFi, it's become this sort of unique crypto subculture, I like to say. Do you think that that's like it? Do you think that within the Solana ecosystem, that's been a really big momentum shift for you guys? Do you think that the broader industry has actually really taken to DeFi? I mean, we had the DeFi summer. Do you think that momentum is still ongoing?
For sure. I think what's interesting is that you have a different base layer for DeFi on Solana than on Ethereum, and that's Serum. So Serum is a central limit order book. It's a different way to trade from an AMM like Uniswap, and it has different participants and the kind of application.
And yeah, even then it says Solana is the leading Ethereum competitor, and I don't know why people keep comparing them. Obviously they do their very similar things, but in my opinion there's a place on the market for both of them, as Ethereum has its own place, Solana has its own place. Solana may be more efficient, but Ethereum is always gonna be more prevalent, right? So both of them are good investments. If I had to choose one right now, it would obviously be Solana, but still Anatoly is very humble about it as well, and I really respect that too.
That people are building are unique. You have to actually think through your new product and redesign it for something. Not only that you're porting, you're changing from Solidity to Rust, you have to now build on top of a totally different kind of financial primitive. And we've seen just that exercise be a source of innovation for a lot of teams.
And we mentioned Ethereum there as well. I'm sure you're sick of hearing it, but that, the phrase of Solana being an Ethereum killer, are you really tired of hearing that? Why do you think it's staying around?
The media loves the narrative, Like the reality is that open source projects can't be killed because there's always somebody that's coding on it for fun over the weekend. And me as an engineer that, grew up in the 90s, I remember Microsoft being this Linux killer. And they just didn't get it. There's no way you can actually stop an open source movement. So, I like to think that the best we can do for the Ethereum community is be like a formidable competitor in a true sense, right? Like we're trying to build from the ground up a different engine for censorship resistance, a different engine for DeFi, and that exploration of the space is, showing some results that I think are interesting for everyone to see.
Right, yeah.
And yeah, he touched on that issue as well, right? Obviously, they are always gonna be compared, Solana and Ethereum, but we are focusing on Solana right now, as Solana is a token with so much potential, with so much upside, and right now, like I said, it's a really good period to be accumulating.
Yeah, like a rising tide lifts all boats, as they say. That makes sense. And you mentioned censorship resistance there. I was at one of your panels earlier today, talking about that at length as well. Tell me a little bit about that and why that's so much at the heart of what Solana does.
I think the core of scalability has to cut down to this like really layer one core component, which is the Nakamoto coefficient. How many nodes, how many different independent entities does it take to slow down information in the system? And if you maximize that, you have to maximize hardware, you have to build a really fast, high-performance chain. But when you do that, you also minimize the cost to users. You minimize the cost to run this network to everybody that is application developer, to everyone that is just storing keys and like using DeFi. And I think that's an interesting thing. And I think it actually builds a fair, more open, decentralized marketplace that can, I think, in theory, disrupt things like ad exchanges at Google. Imagine a web without ads, right? That's possible only by extremely cheap marketplaces.
And sticking on Solana's like recent progress as well over the last few months. In September, the outage that lasted, I think it was 17 hours.
17-hour block.
Yeah. So how did that like affect you? Was it? I can imagine it was a fairly stressful time. What did you learn from it? And can we expect that maybe to never happen again? Like, how does that work?
So the thing is that like the core of what decentralization provides is that as long as you have one independent party that is still running or still has a copy of the chain, then the chain can recover. So that's really, if you think about Bitcoin, there's 12,000 nodes. If I snap my finger and I destroy all of them, the Bitcoin is gone. It's not the hash power, it's the actual copies of the state. So Solana is at around 2,000 of these copies, and when you have something like a liveness failure like that, the network doesn't just die, right? It just stalls. It's prevented from confirming new blocks because there's so much data to process. And the validator community on their own can come together and run the tools to basically recover from that state, as long as there's one of them that's still around. And in our case, what I saw was that out of those 2,000s, 80% showed up, like almost immediately. And that was really cool to see. It really means that we have a very large independent set of providers that are running this network, that are maintaining it, and it is effectively unstoppable.
Yeah, and that was perfectly said from Anatoly, right? And that's the thing with these projects, you always have to have a CEO who knows how to organize things and who knows how to analyze the crypto market and analyze overall what you need from this project, right? And that's something that Anatoly has done to perfection, and something that Gilbert also from Quant is doing really well. And there's some other, the Caspa CEO is really good as well, right? Was more of a founder than a CEO, I know, but still, don't flame me in the comments, guys. But obviously, Anatoly knows what he's talking about. He's planned this out very well, very thoroughly, and his background in engineering also makes it really helpful, right? Like, he's an engineer at heart, and that's something that you need in these projects.
Nice. And another thing I'd like to talk to you about as well is NFTs. Obviously now we can get Solana NFTs on FTX's regulated marketplace. Tell me a little bit about that, your relationship with FTX as well, and then more broadly just NFTs in general and how you've seen that sort of explode into the space.
So NFTs was really unpredictable in terms of how, like, the implementation of it. Like, I always felt that cryptography is a really core, interesting part about crypto in general. The fact that humans can now have, consumer-grade cryptography, meaning that they can store a key and sign with it on a daily basis, that's never been possible before. PGP is a nightmare, right? Nobody uses that effectively. But because you now have value, right, people have figured out how to build these wallets, how to build ledgers, how to build the ops for normal humans. And with NFTs, it just manifested itself into, like, anytime you have people coming together doing something anywhere, they start creating memes and culture. And it's just like, it's obvious. I didn't expect it was going to be NFTs, but I kind of felt that there's a very deep social component to crypto. And I knew I'm not going to be able to predict what it looks like, but it's obvious in retrospect. Yeah, NFTs are it. And I'm really excited about, like, where this thing can go. Like, it really feels that, when we get to 100 million users, 1 billion users all using cryptography, it's going to be a deep part of that culture, right? Of that shared experience. With FTX, those guys are just always moving like so fast that I can hardly keep track of them. So, the legend of Serum was that I had a conversation with Sam and showed him Break, our like little app that demonstrates that you can slam the network with transactions. Showed it to his engineers, and they're like, okay, let's go build the exchange, the decentralized exchange that we wanted. And 4 weeks later, it was live.
And yeah, he touched there on NFTs pretty well, right? Obviously, NFTs are what makes the Solana ecosystem really as important as it is and as successful as it is, right? And so many people have been going mad right there. I think he said there were 15 million different NFTs on the Solana kind of blockchain or ecosystem, which is just mad when you think about it, right?
So they move really fast when they decide on something, even though they have like a legendary number of 6 engineers running everything. So with NFTs, I think they saw how quickly Solana NFT community is growing. Phantom is adding like 100,000 users a week, and mostly driven by NFTs. What people are there for is for fun, right? They want to have fun. And that's a huge opportunity, I think, for exchanges to move into this kind of generalized, access point to DeFi, to decentralized exchanges, to NFTs, to like everything else that's going on in the space.
And would you say then, of course, you mentioned like the social impact of NFTs. Would that really be the real crux of the momentum behind NFTs for you? Do you think it's maybe more being treated by people as an asset of sorts, or is it really about a sense of belonging to a community that takes precedence?
When I like jump into like the Monkey MBS Discord, like, and I see the kind of noise and like the engagement that people are having, the only other time I remember seeing stuff like this was in like bulletin boards in the 90s on the internet, like those early days where people were just figuring out how to use these systems.
And yeah, it's really good that he's in touch with the community there, right? Like he jumps into discourse, he sees what the community wants, and yeah, that's very important and something that will move the project forward, definitely.
It really feels like that. It feels like early days, like with a new way to communicate, new way to have fun, to connect. And if it scales to a very large number, it's very unpredictable what that's going to look like. There's no way in the 90s I could have told you that, sending a photo that disappears is going to be worth like $500 billion, right? You would have laughed at me like, what? It disappears? What does that mean?
It's true. It's counterintuitive when you think
right.
of it like that.
Yeah.
So I guess another just final question, really. You mentioned earlier today that during the conference we're not really going to see a big roadmap for development in the future for Solana, but I'd like to ask you anyway, like what's next? What can people expect to see coming out of the ecosystem, what's in the pipeline?
Eating more glass, I think.
Eating more glass, and
yeah.
that is, you mean just the pain of development, right?
That's the reason why like I as an engineer hate roadmaps is because it's really hard to predict anything beyond 2 weeks.
Right.
Like if you're not going to land it in the next 2 weeks, there's 50% chance it's ever going to get done. So, which is why I think, like we're very cautious about predicting anything, right? Like, but for us, I think in the community in general, it does feel like a downhill kind of, we're kind of skiing downhill now. And that's because the kind of changes that are happening to the network they're all optimizations that are obvious. They're all making the network incrementally better. There's not a huge major release in the roadmap or anything like that. But every release just gets better, just gets faster. Every time validators update their hardware, there's more capacity, latencies get better. And that translates into folks like Phantom, or the NFT marketplaces just starting to look and feel more like Web2 applications.
And yeah guys, that's pretty much the video, so let me know your thoughts on Solana and the whole ecosystem, on its price. Where do you see it heading? Are you bearish? Are you bullish on Solana? And how much Solana are you holding? Let me know all of your thoughts and more in the comments down below. As always, I love talking to you today, and peace.